100% emocji. Made in Małopolska.
Hello and welcome to our panel entitled A Perfect Pitch, How to Give Your Game Wings to Fly. I would like to offer a especially warm welcome on behalf of the board of the Krakow Technology Park, who has organized Digital Dragons Business Meetup for the first time. Also, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our main partner, the region of Małopolska. Last but not least, lots of warm thanks to our other partners. We'd like to thank you for your cooperation and support. Before we get started, let me remind you that there are 60 games on Steam platform in the Indie Celebration contest. Who wins? We will find out on Friday. And we've got our 4 guests today, representing 4 different points of view, 4 different sets of experience, 4 different companies. Grzegorz Drabik from Untold Tales, Alessandro Bovenzi from All in Games, Guillaume Jamet from Plugin Digital, and Shane Bierwith from Maximum Games. Hello, guys. Thank you for being here with me and with us, because we are in different time zones, in different parts of the globe, but all together hyping about games, because that's what drives us, and that's what we love. So, pitching. This is our subject for today. The moment where a person who has created a game, or a set of persons, a team, comes to the publisher with their hearts on their sleeve, and they say, this is our child. Please take it. Please deliver it to the players worldwide. So why is pitching a thing at all? Because usually when a person designs a game, he or she thinks, that's awesome, that's great, they're gonna love it. So what's all the fuss about pitching, guys? Who would love to start? Shane, maybe you'd like to start.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean, I guess first off, there's a lot of different ways to pitch a game. As a publisher, we get submissions through our website. We see and meet with developers at events like Digital Dragons, whether it's a physical or digital event. There are game brokers who represent development studios and will kind of work with publishers to help get a game funded or made. There's a variety of different ways to meet up with publishers and essentially pitch. So I think first and foremost, it kind of depends on the forum and who your audience is, and you always want to make sure that you're catering your pitch to that specific medium that you're pitching at. If you're pitching your game and submitting it via a website, usually you're going to want everything packaged up very nicely. You're going to want a very clean kind of outline for exactly what you're submitting. And first and foremost, what we always want to see as a publisher is really a good prototype or a demo. A lot of devs, don't like to hear that, but at the end of the day, there needs to be some type of proof of concept, at least for our publishing business. But then, outside of that, it's everything, all of the info that a publisher will need. Like, what are the details of the game? What is the scope of the game? What is the story? What are the features? What exactly do you need as a developer? Are you looking for funding? If so, how much funding? What's your monthly burn rate? What's your timeline and your milestone calendar like? What are your target platforms? And then we're going to want to see history of your team. What's the size of your team? What's your team's prior experience? So as much information as you could possibly provide, because what developers also need to remember, if you put yourself in a publisher's shoes, this is an investment. Yes, we all love games. We love the industry. We want you to succeed as a developer, but we're also running a business. And we need to make sure that as an investment for our business, even if we're not funding money, we're funding time and resources, right? So we need to make sure that it makes sense for us as a business. And the more information that developers can provide to prove that it will be a viable investment for us, the better. And that's where the pitch comes into play. It's providing us with all of the necessary information that we need to know to kind of where we'll believe that our investment in the game will be a success.
So it's not all about just showing you some screens of the game, showing you the logo and saying people would love it. Guillaume, tell me, how does it look when people come to you, they show you their product, and I can, imagine that they have stars in their eyes and they're completely sure that you're going to be amazed with it. But what is exactly you are looking for in such a game, in such a project? What interests you in particular?
Sorry, my mic was broke.
Now we can hear you.
Yeah, as Chen just said, a proper document is always nice because the way you will pull out information about your game is already an information for us. If you are able to make a nice looking, clear document, then you are giving us some insight about maybe you are a proper organized team, if you see what I mean. So I'm not saying that the beauty of the document makes it, but it helps. When we see that a studio pays attention into details and there's no typos, there's a nice background, and the IDs are clearly spelled, it helps to start building some trust into the studio. So it doesn't make it all, but when sometimes we just get an email with 2 screenshots attached, so for sure it's not giving us a good feeling about the game, except if the screenshots are astonishing. So found some project we can break the rules, but you see what I mean, right? Introducing yourself, if you introduce yourself if you need to go to the bank, and I'm not saying I'm a bank, but if the studio goes to the bank, maybe we'll take care about his outfit and put up a nice shirt and dress up a bit. Well, your document to introduce the game is something you may want to dress up a little, so you can catch our attention.
So the first impression is very important. The first document, the first email. Yes,
it's not critical, but as Shen said, we receive a lot of proposals every day or every week. So I don't know, among maybe 30 proposals a week. When you review that, you need to, something need to stand out. So obviously we need some a nice visual. Videos help. So I like, and it's kind of mandatory for people in my team. Unfortunately, I can review everything, so I can play every single demo. So a walkthrough of the demo is very helpful for me. So a video helps, and putting nice information helps. So even if you send a very bad-looking document, but with a cool video, that makes it. So the document itself doesn't make it all, but it helps to stand out at first sight, and it's always better and give us a good first feeling, obviously.
Of course, especially when there are 30 games a day, as you said. It's
a week,
really
a week.
A week, sorry. 30 games a week, so it's still a lot. Alessandro, so I would like to ask you, because I suppose that you also deal with such quantities of games, amounts of games. There's a lot of game makers all around the world, lots of. Each of them and every one of them wants to be published. And when you get such a, I don't know how to call it, a bag full of ideas, bag full of games, what features make the better ones stand out? As Guillaume said, the first impression is quite important. It's not everything, but it's important. So what are the next steps to pick from the, vast sack of games, to pick the best games?
Yeah, it's definitely, I think a lot of publishers are in the same position, as in receive an overwhelmingly amount of pitches on a weekly basis. So it's important for developers to manage to catch someone's attention in a matter of minutes, really, because it's difficult to go back to previous project that you've evaluated some time ago when you received that amount of games. In terms of what we asked to see in terms of just the materials and such is fairly similar. So we request a deck, a presentation, a playable prototype or vertical slice, and if possible, a video, which is optional, but again, it helps, especially when you circulate the idea around some of your teammates. It's easy to grasp an idea of something by a video. I think a lot of publishers also appreciate that in terms of the playable form, a vertical slice is likely something very refined that comes after there's already some level of funding, and some developers sometimes managed by different government funding to get to that stage. But at least a playable prototype is definitely a must, because we need to make sure that your idea you're able to execute your ideas. In terms of what tends to kind of catch our attention and so on, I think it's obviously very difficult to have very original products and innovative. So I think what we like to see is a well thought and well executed mix of ideas. It's it's absolutely okay to borrow elements and idea from different games. In fact, most games do look at competitors as inspirations. And I think rather than some people maybe are think that they need to present the game as something absolutely unique and original and innovative, but I rather think that it's a unique mix of elements that are familiar that usually catch our attention.
So it's not about inventing the wheel again. Yes, it's about mixing the things.
Yeah. I think there's mixing elements, familiar elements, in a way that hasn't been seen before, or sometimes it's even simply, in quotation marks, executing brilliantly a set of ideas that are quite familiar. I think that there's been a number of games around that have been very, very successful, despite belonging to a genre that was quite crowded already, but they simply executed very well on what they wanted to do and mixed the right elements from different games in similar genres.
So do you observe, this is a question for all of you guys, do you observe such waves of genres? For example, this month we've got 30 iterations of Flappy Bird. The other month we've got 50 Arkanoids.
Maybe not exactly like copies of exact titles. Obviously, you have Minecrafts, you have, all different Among Us and all party games, co-op, 4-player, arcade, whatever, call them. But I would say also you have genres, like roguelikes, each week a few roguelikes, next week Souls-likes, and, first-person shooters, battle royales, horde gnashing zombies and whatever. So it's like, it comes in waves. Yeah, basically, the more louders, the bigger titles get, the bigger audience and more copies they get instantly from the developers. But what I would also add to my colleagues here, mentioning the pitch itself, what Shane mentioned, that the more we as a publisher, the more info on project and the team we get, the better. Yes, but also I believe I can say for all of us here, we really ask to be smart about it, because what we do not need is a GDD in form of a pitch, right? I think we all got pitches in some way of our career. We got pitches that were 50, 60, or I even got pitch that was about more than 90 pages long. Guys, believe me, there was each concept art, each screen from the gameplay, each feature was explained on separate page. Each character, each backstory of the character, the story synopsis were like 10 pages long. So what we ask as a publisher is being smart about putting up a pitch and being concise about the info we put in there. Because what Guillaume said, when you get like 30 to 50 pitches a week, you don't have capabilities to go through all and get all the detail from the pitch. So it is up to developers to really show it properly in the pitch and to make all the crucial details stand out, and do it like on 10 or 50 pages. That's really enough to show that you have a really unique project on your hands, and show the all the unique selling points and all the crucial details to the publisher.
I would also add
Mm-hmm.
to that, what we've to your point, what we've seen is a lot of times the quality of the pitch also represents the quality of the game, right? And kind of like what the studio's capabilities are. And so I could see a situation like that where you're getting a pitch of 90 pages, it's just too much, it's not streamlined. That's probably going to represent itself in the demo. So, if you're having a hard time consolidating the pitch, you might want to rethink about how you're kind of structuring that in the demo as well, because the more streamlined the presentation is, the more streamlined the demo is, the better for a publisher, for sure. You want to get to that, whatever the core is what the publisher wants to know.
I think it's a way for the developer to demonstrate that they have a clear vision for the game, and they're able to communicate that vision in a concise way. If you have trouble to express and summarize what your game is about, I think that immediately gives a lack of confidence from the publisher into the project. Like, it's a way. I think it's also a good process for developers themselves to make sure that on their side they have a clear idea of what is the focus, what are the core features, what is the target audience.
It's actually a really, we know the developers love their games. They love everything about the game, about the team, about the features, about unique selling points, about the story, characters, art style, art direction, and everything. But that doesn't mean that they have to show everything in the pitch. Just the most important parts that really, stand out from the crowd.
So,
and about being smart also, I would say even before pitching, I think studio needs to be sometimes a bit smarter. You have here 4 different publishers. It's obvious we published different kind of games. We have a story, we have a lineup, and to be frank, most of the game I get today in my email box are absolutely irrelevant compared to my lineup. There is even if the game is very, very cool, I don't do mobile game on my Dear Villagers brand. I get tons of mobile game on that. We have another branch doing mobile games, and they get console games and 3D, and we have a sourcing manager who spend time to write a very nice document, short and clear about what we are looking for. When you go on our website, it's prior to our form, so you cannot pass through it. So if you are willing, if you want me to spend a few minutes to check on your game, give interest, please pay 5 minutes to read our guidelines, And actually, I have a funny email a few months ago. I received that pitch with we have this form, but with a free commentary box. And in the free commentary box, the guy said, "Oh, I'm glad I checked your list, and I have the full combo of everything you don't do." So obviously, its game was kind of nice, but it was exactly the opposite of anything we are doing with our company. So I don't know if he finally pitched for the fun or what, but obviously it wasn't. It didn't lead anything for him, and sometimes it's kind of a pain. The worst thing is receiving a pitch or an email when you feel it's kind of a massive mailing, and you just one publisher among like maybe 50 companies. The studio has been pitching with the same email, just copy pasting things.
Like
spam. Yeah, we do have some pitch being spam in our mailbox, and sometimes it's you see there is a routine back. Your publisher's name is in caps because it was extracted from a file, And yeah, that's absolutely not a good way to start a conversation with us. If you need to, I think if I would give studios some advice, make a short list of the publishers that are a good fit for your game, and focus on pitching those guys, and to convince them that your game is meant to be in their lineup. If you feel your game doesn't belong to their lineup, well, look elsewhere. There is obviously somewhere someone was made. There is so many publishers now too. There has to be a publisher for your game. And please do not pitch every one of them, because most of them are not made for your game.
Yeah, to add another example, what you just said about, the publishers have specializations. As for example, one of the first sentences you can find on our website, Untold Tales, is that we want to publish the games that have some meaningful narratives, that tell some stories, mainly single player games. And obviously what you just said, what we are finding in our inbox are, racing games, brawlers, arcade games, co-op zombie shooters, and everything that has no story at all. So, and you just gotta have to go to our website, read 2-3 sentences, that you know everything about us. It's that simple.
So don't get massive, don't get spammy. Less is more, and do the research on the publishers. This is a very important thing. Read about the guys to whom you're going to send your pitch, to know your enemy, as I would say. Guys, there is one very important question connected to this matter, because all of you said that there are two sides of this coin. There is the publisher and there's the developer, and they speak in the same language, but they've got completely different points of view. Different things are important for them. So can we please just list some things that are important for publishers in a game? Why do you choose a specific game to be published? What's important for you? We can start with Grzegorz, because you've said about the stories. So it's always about the stories or something more?
The story is like the crucial thing for us. So the game can be single player, it can be great co-op game that you can somehow, like It Takes Two, for the best example from the last few weeks. So It Takes Two is a great co-op game. You can play co-op online or offline, but it also has a great story about, divorce and child being hurt by the parents. But yeah, the story is crucial for us. So it's the first thing that we are looking in projects, but also, of course, some kind of unique features. Because what I think Alessandro said a few minutes back, that it's hard to be, really unique and fresh these days, but it still happens, right? We had Super Hot, we had Baba Is You, we had Carry On. These are all like kind of games we know, just Super Hot is just a shooter, but the core premise is totally fresh. The same is Baba Is You with the logical puzzles and all this stuff. So I think there is still room for innovation and really fresh and unique ideas. So you can also include them in the game, even the single player narrative games. But this is what we are looking for mainly.
Okay, Shane. So what are your main goals when you search through the pitches? What grips your attention?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, similar to what was just said, we're the quality of the prototype or the demo or vertical slice, whatever is sent our way, is really the first thing that we look at. Just we want to make sure that the developer has a really good understanding and is able to translate whatever the kind of core gameplay loop is, and that is fun and it's of high quality. And then after that, it's some type of unique experience or differentiator within the genre. I do think, though, it's important for developers to understand, like Guillaume said, nothing has to be completely original. It's very difficult these days to find a completely novel idea, but if you can execute something exceptionally well, then that is kind of a unique identifier in a way. That can really help to stand out. So the quality is first and foremost, and then there are other things just as from a publisher side of the business. Like first thing is we want to make sure that we align with the developer's vision, that we believe in their capability as a team. If they've had prior experience making this type of genre or this type of game before, like we want to have faith in the team that we're going to be partnering and investing with, and the quality is good. And then from the business side of things, looking at the market, making sure that, we believe there's actually a demand for this type of game, or, maybe if it, like someone said earlier, we get pitched so many roguelites every week. I mean, it's absurd how many roguelites there are. And that's not to say there isn't a market for roguelites. There clearly is. But when you're looking at just the sheer market saturation in that genre, it's going to be really tough as a publisher, to market a game and make it stand out successfully in all, all the noise that's out there. So, we do a lot of diligence on our side, just looking at the market, looking at the saturation, looking at these zeitgeists and kind of where trends are going, making sure that, we have, good kind of understanding of what we believe, that will do in the market. And then I'd say the last thing is aligning on kind of like what exactly is the developer looking for? And this isn't something we've actually discussed, but a lot of developers also don't necessarily know what they're looking for. They don't, they know that they want a publisher, but they don't necessarily know what their own weaknesses are or what gaps that they will need the publisher to come help with. Sometimes they feel like they might need funding, or they present a bunch of different scenarios and they're kind of unsure. So I'd say that is kind of the third most important thing, is really making sure that we're aligning with each other. Okay, what exactly is it that you need to get the best kind of commercial and critical success possible? Do you need, is it funding? Is it support with porting? Do you need some type of technical help or co-development? Is it really just marketing that you need at the end of the day? And I think that to one of the earlier points, every publisher is also unique in terms of what they can provide and what their strengths are. So make sure that as a developer, you're doing your diligence and looking at past campaigns and past games and past genres that publishers have worked on to make sure that it kind of aligns with whatever your expectations of a publisher are.
Mm-hmm. Alessandro, have you had such an experience of pitches that were perfectly designed for the things that your company looked for, or contrary, some critical failures? Have you experienced such examples? For example, that you've seen a game and seen the pitch, and even though the game wasn't necessarily, a golden stuff, you've said, oh, okay, those guys know how to sell their idea.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot talk in detail about some of these because some of these are actually ongoing at the moment. But yeah, I think probably most of us have come across both cases. In terms of critical failures, there was something a long time ago, like over 10 years ago. And it's a bit of a silly example, maybe extreme, but it was at a conference where 10 or 20 projects had been selected from a much larger number. And at that point, developers were going on a stage to talk about the products to publishers and platforms and so on. And I remember a case where there was a game which was fundamentally a platform puzzle game. And the developers spent like about half of the time talking about the lore of the game. So like the background story about these alien planets and the mythology and all of that. Clearly, there was a bit of an element of stage fright, and we appreciate that, especially for developers that do this the first time. We do take that in account. But there was just an overwhelming amount of information about something that is not really crucial or relevant for the genre your game belongs to. this was mentioned a little bit earlier. So the amount of time you spend talking about art direction, everyone, the visual appeal is important, but if your game is like a narrative experience that is focused on the vibe, atmosphere, and so on, I think the overall kind of audiovisual aspect, I want to see more about that, because a lot is going to be delivered from that perspective rather than pure gameplay features. In terms of great pitches, we've seen some, and I think again referencing a bit what was said earlier in terms of we want to see a unique mix rather than unique individual features. One thing that I appreciate is when developers put effort into researching the market, and especially in the case of overcrowded genres, they are able to show why they think the product stands out, and even better, why they think there is an overlap or a crossover between different audiences that play two different genres. Because I think publishers are very interested in this kind of audience crossover and in something that can capitalize the attention of different type of audiences. One thing that's also smart, I think, to do is you will most likely have to have a competitor analysis in your pitch. So talk about other games in the same space, right? I think it's important to show both the leaders, like the outliers, the one that deliver millions of copies. But the reality of things is that most titles do not reach that level of success. What is important for a publisher, though, is that a project is profitable. And a project can be profitable even in the tens of thousands of units or hundreds of thousands. It's all relative to the budget you're asking for and the ROI. And if you're able also to show that a certain genre is not losing popularity, if we're talking about live farming simulator games, you can talk about Stardew Valley, but they came out a while ago now. Show me if there are more recent titles in the same genre that are still successful. That way it kind of gives me confidence to understand, yes, there is still space for a new game in this genre now, because I can see that there is a track of success. It's not just a macro trend that ended a long time ago.
So it's about the research also. The pitcher should do a research.
I think it would benefit them. Again, publishers have, and developers should expect publishers to have their own teams to do this sort of research. But I think it shows a level of maturity, and it should. I think it puts everything into the right light and perspective. The amount of budget you ask for, is going to be is going to make sense or not, depending on the likelihood of success. So if you're pitching a title in a genre that is extremely crowded and you're asking for a huge amount of money, the risk for the publisher is huge. If you show me that you've done a little bit of math and that the results to profitability is much more likely because you've checked X, Y, and Z, I think it helps the conversation. It shows that you have a certain degree of maturity.
It's not all about the art.
Well, I will maybe just a bit disagree on both sentences.
Great, Guillaume. Tell us what you think.
No, I would say sometimes when developers do those kind of maths, they are always picking up the crazy success. So, they will, okay, look, that game sells millions, so mine is quite similar, so it's obvious you will make money out of my game. So I would say if you do it, and I think you are right, it's very nice when the studio properly do some kind of market study on his own and comes to us with a clear idea of the market. But I would say 8 times out of 10, it's just putting the top seller in my category for the past 10 years. And picking up this one 10 million, this one 5 millions, and I'm asking for, I don't know, 100,000 euros, and I will sell 10 millions too. So no, it doesn't make sense.
That's absolutely fair, and I think it's why I mentioned put both the outliers, but show me titles that are profitable in the tens of thousands, because otherwise it's
I think just for the sake of the pitch and for the sake of instructions for the developers, we should separate two things. So as Alessandro says, show me that you know your competition on the market and your references or what you're aiming for, but also do not paint me a success story with your title, that you will sell millions because someone sell millions and you're making the same game. This is like two different things. And we all know as a publishers that we will do a better evaluation and business analysis internally than you do on one pager in the pitch, right?
Yeah,
so,
that's exactly what I was going to say. You've got one aspect of it is more of positioning in the marketplace.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Where are you on the market?
Yeah, where are you in that map? Your SWOT analysis. Like if you take a look at the competition and your comparable titles, like where does your game land and what makes it unique in that space? Like how is it going to be relevant in that genre? I think that is important for the developers to have an idea of where they fit in that positioning matrix. But then as it relates to forecasts, I completely agree. Like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 times that we see forecasts from the developers, it's, they're comping against, it's an ARPG and they're comping Divinity or Divinity 2. It's like, okay, guys, like, we wish you the best, but developers need to understand all publishers, at least all, good publishers, have their own forecasting models. We have our own benchmarks, we have our own P&Ls, we have our own process. We're going to run it through, and we're going to be able to kind of come up with our own forecasts and decisions and have those conversations, but we're not going to base them off of these extreme outliers.
And the other thing I wanted to maybe I will sound superficial with that, but visuals do matter on the art direction is very important to me, and you can imagine when you receive many pitch, maybe it's superficial, but the most the most beautiful screenshots will stand out from poor art direction. So I'm not saying I'm picking games out of nice art direction, but I know in my position as a young rising publisher, I don't know how to market a ugly game. I need, I don't have the community. Maybe developer can market a ugly game with a very nice gameplay. I don't know how to do that because I don't have the community for it, and I didn't have players used to me doing that. So right now, and I say it's true on the market. There is so many games on stores right now, so many competition everywhere. Your game needs to stand out visually, at least for us, because you just have to go on Steam. People are browsing Steam now like they are browsing Tinder.
Yeah, but we are buying with our eyes, right? We are buying games and we are buying stuff in our life with our eyes mostly.
Exactly.
And video games are visual art, right? This is no coincidence. So connect the dots.
True.
And nice looking doesn't mean that I need some realistic 3D open world. It's art. So art can be nice in many different ways.
Exactly.
There is amazing pixel hardware games, amazing 3D games, but your art direction in your own way needs to stand out, and that's very important to us. And that's sometimes how we decide to go or not to go on one game, and most of the time, if the game is not pleasing our eyes, it's hard for us to go further and review if the gameplay will be. So we need a kind of a love at first sight feeling on the art direction.
Yeah. I think it defines identity for a game, right? Which can come from very different art styles, but it's definitely a part of it.
Yeah, beautiful game doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a realistic, kind of visuals, realistic world and Unreal 5 and all that stuff. It's we all know really beautiful games like from a totally different niche and the art direction, right? It's not about life like zombies and stuff.
Okay, so there was during our little talk there was one thing that came out, and I would like to focus on it for a while and ask you about it. What are exactly those mythical USPs, unique selling propositions that are, I know that these are very important for publishers, but for, everyday ordinary people or the dreamers with games, that sounds like black magic. What are the USPs and why are they so important, guys?
I'm probably going to repeat myself a little bit here, but I think here what can be daunting is the word unique, because developers that are going through this maybe for the first time think that your game must be unique, as in it has to be original, it has to be something never seen before. And that is obviously a scary thought. And the unique part is more of the blend and mix of different features that together make it feel fresh, different, or just very compelling game and well executed. And to make an example, maybe something like Hollow Knight, it belongs to a genre that was already popular and started to get crowded, Metroidvania. Added elements from Dark Souls, so it had a big emphasis on interconnected level design, tight controls, pixel perfect combat, and borrows some elements of challenge from Dark Souls. All in all, it simply executes brilliantly different ideas that we've already seen in other games and genres. So what I want to see is either mixing different elements in an unexpected way. And I guess, we've all seen racing games and football games before, but before Rocket League, we maybe hadn't seen, cars playing football, or something, less radical, but really, really well executed that is going to appeal the target audience in a very specific way.
And I would say that in the pitch, I'm not especially expecting USP, to be clear. I'm expecting the developer to be able to have clear features, to know what he will be delivered. And I would say it's kind of my duty to come out afterwards. So what help him define the USP once the game is more advanced, when you get a game as young as an early prototype, it's very hard to believe that what you see as a original feature will be in the end the real USP of your games. That's something you build over time with a studio. So I would say rather than having a studio that make me some promises about, my game will be having this unique feature and things, So I just want to know clearly and with a kind of ambition, what is the feature of the game, what he wants to deliver to me and to the players as clean as possible. And then, and we happened to just recently sign a game that was missing these key USPs that we're looking for. And I say, okay, let's go with you. I trust you as a studio. I like the proposal. We will work on that and find together over time. We have 3 years developing your game. We'll find this USP. So I'm rather looking for a clear message and to see that this developer knows where it's going to, rather than having me selling me USP. I'm the one supposed to sell the product, not him.
I think, to add to that, the way that I look at a USP, it's a marketing message, right? It's how does your game stand out amongst the competition? What makes it unique against everything that is already out there? And that could be done in many different ways. There are some games where the kind of core mechanic or feature of the game has never been done before, and it's just very unique. A game that comes to mind that we're publishing on our Modus label is called Chris Tales. And the core gameplay is split up, the screen is split up into 3 parts. It's the past, the present, and the future that you get to play simultaneously as you're going through the game. And you can kind of see how it affects the worlds you play. Super unique, right? That really hasn't been done before like that. And that is the unique selling proposition of that game. And the developers had that vision when they were making the game. And that's how we're marketing the game, right? So it all kind of came together with that single-minded USP message. Now, a lot of games don't have that, and you don't have to have that. But what is it that makes your game exceptionally good? You know, and what is that main message that is going to be that kind of primary single-minded message that's going to be pushed to consumers around launch? What is the thing that you want them to take away? That's how I think of the USP. And I do agree with Guillaume that developers don't necessarily need to have that. It's an added bonus if they do. It kind of tends to streamline their vision around the game, and it can certainly help with that direction. But oftentimes that's where our marketing team comes into play, and we will help define all of that positioning and the USP or USPs sometimes.
Tell me, Grzegorz, what do you think about USPs? Because to be honest, you taught me this abbreviation. I've learned it watching your seminars, being completely green on the subject some time ago. So I would also like, to pick some of your brains on that matter. So USPs for you.
I can just add to what Guy said. It's an added bonus when the studio has a clear vision of USPs. It's obviously a very important thing for the marketing team of the publisher. But also on the one thing is when the studio is very, very aware of the USPs, and they are real USPs, like the unique features, fresh features and stuff. But on the other end of the scale is when the studio thinks that everything is unique in their project. This is mainly because of this is connected to the 90 pages pitch, when the studio thinks that everything is beautiful, everything is great, and everything is important. So it obviously it can be that the USP can be like the standard thing, like for example a story. A story can be USP, but it has to be a really good story. So when the studio is telling you in the pitch that the story is their USP, and you're asking who's writing the story, my brother, my programmer's brother, right? He has some free time, spare time. He's writing a story. So
not really convincing.
Not really convincing that it's gonna be a real USP, right? So, or the art style, because they love their art direction. So obviously, some really basic things like art style, story, or platforming or puzzles. Obviously, they can be USPs, but they have to be really fresh and unique, like Alessandro said, and I like in the games I mentioned, like Super Hot or Carrion or Baba Is You and all the great puzzlers and that came in the last years. So yeah, what we are looking for is obviously, as I mentioned, the story. So I believe that this great story can be a USP, but also it should add to some great great gameplay features.
Okay, so there's one more thing I would like to ask you about, because you are the judge and jury of somebody's,
and executioners.
And executioners, of course, and wings, and the wing forgers, the forgers of wings. Let's think about it in the positive way, the forgers of wings. So, in your experience, are developers open to suggestions? Are you, do you like to suggest sometimes the developers considering their product to change something in the gameplay or change something in the artwork? Does it work that way, or you are on that page that you want to have everything completed, you take it or you leave it, or you want to suggest something? And if suggested, are the developers taking the advice or rather getting offended?
Maybe I'll start because this is really a coincidence, but we have so great chemistry with our studios and the project we signed that we have a weekly or bi-weekly calls with each and every one studio in our portfolio. And we are constantly going around the projects and giving them feedback. Obviously, this is not pointing with the finger that you should change this, you should add this because we know better. This is just the feedback. This is just, iterating on their ideas, on prototypes they are delivering. So I think, the role of a good publisher should be not waiting, we're giving you money and you come back in 2 years with a great project you promised in the pitch, but rather we are looking for we want to be a partner. We need to have a great chemistry with the studio. We are open to their ideas. They are open to our ideas and feedback, and we are making the great game.
Guys, you've had such experience that you had to guide the developers a little bit towards making a better product. Guillaume, Shane, Alessandro.
Yeah, on our side, we always it's always part of the discussion. Very early, we feel from the early meetings before signing if the studio is willing to be a partner or if it's just looking for money. So and usually we sign for the partners, not for for the money hunters. In our occasion, we used to be quite shy about interfering in production, but as we are writing, we are doing more, and we see that it's more than welcome from most of our studios because as was said, we are a couple for 3, 4, 5 years, depending on how long the project, and it works both ways. And the same way, I would say, most of our studios expect to be part of marketing. So if you want to be heard in marketing, then you need to hear me about your production. Sometimes we disagree about something we believe on our side should be in the game or should not be in the game. So the rule we have is that everything production related, the studio always have the final word. So that's it. Marketing wise, we always have the final word. So it's a balance. That's a promise we make. So all the creative side, but we do really choose partners from the start when we believe that they will be open to discussion. That doesn't mean that we change stuff, but that means that we want to work with studio partners that will be listening. And we know we will have nice conversation and will be willing to listen to us.
Yeah, so on our side, I mean, it's similar. We have our full publishing division, which is Modus Games. On Modus Games, we want partners, right? We get in very early in the development process. We have a whole department built out around user experience, and that's actually built into our milestone schedule because we want to make sure that we're able to provide the developers with quantitative feedback. So we're always doing play tests. We have big Discord channels. We have focus groups. We have QA, and we're getting as many people to play the game as possible. And we have comprehensive reports that we send back to the developers at each key milestone. And we prioritize and identify kind of the biggest kind of variables that will help improve the quality of the game. And that way we're not saying subjectively we want to change this from green to red because we like green or red better. We're saying that this is what the data shows, and it makes for a much easier conversation. But also as a publisher, we're and a partner, we want the best commercial and critical success possible. We want to see the game succeed. And so like Guillaume was talking about, this is important to us early on in the conversations, that we're identifying partners who want to have that type of partnership and are not just looking at this as, an investor that's just going to give them money and leave them alone. Now, with that said, Maximum Games, which is more of our kind of late stage sub-publishing and distribution, we do sign games that are much later in the funnel, where we might provide some funding, but it's much more about distribution, right? We have a huge distribution network where we do all physical, global physical releases, digital releases, and those are games where, you know, we're not necessarily as concerned about getting in early and, you know, providing feedback, because the games are already much more kind of established in the pipeline. So it really just depends on the partner, it depends on the publisher, it depends on the developer, and kind of the relationship that the developers are interested in.
Yeah, from our side, I mean, we're a fairly young company, but one of the areas we're trying to, we are expanding a lot is what Shane just mentioned, the kind of the UX side of things, so user research and user experience. And I think what sometimes is difficult for the developer is to have a large amount of people to play through your game and to, you know, to gather feedback that is shows certain things. So that's, I think, an aspect where we're definitely pushing a lot, and where we also see that the developers are the most receptive. Sometimes, you know, if it's something coming just from inside the publisher, maybe there are cases where the feedback, if there's any kind of friction, the feedback can be a little bit more difficult to deliver. But when you have user groups and research groups, that's when they are the most receptive. So I would definitely try to push as much as possible that angle.
Okay, so it's all about being open.
I think answering your question, Błażej, in a nutshell, if we are looking for studios to be open for a feedback, I think we are, as we are here at least, we are all looking for partners that we have some chemistry with. We are not, you know, cold-blooded, money-grabbing publishers that, you know, care about. Obviously, games are a product. Games are business, like everything else. But us, you know, we are making deals for 2, 3, 5 years most of the time. So we are looking partners we can have a certain chemistry with. We can looking partnerships and colleagues we can openly talk and, you know, discuss and iterate ideas on daily basis with no, you know.
So the game
grudge.
also,
Yeah.
the pitched game should be also really thought of not only as a good product, but as a plan. The game should live on, not only in the day of the sale, but months and years to come. Yes?
Just to give you, I said that before in other conference, but it still true. When Matthew, we have this sourcing manager doing most of the early talks to the studio, and one of our private joke that once you talk to a studio, let's say the pitch is nice, the contact is nice, and the question I always ask is, okay, would you go out and have some beers at night with those guys? And the answer needs to be yes. And if the answer is the game is good, but the team is not so great, then I swear we do not sign the game if we don't want to go for some beers or anything, and what you want to drink, right? But
so the beer test.
yeah, the convivial test. So do we want to spend some quality time, you know, with those guys? We won't see each other every day, obviously, but and the period is not convenient for that. But we always like to, you know, spend time with a studio every month or every other month or so. They come to our office, or we go to visit there, or we meet on events, and I need to look forward to that moment. And yeah, the beer test is an important question after early discussion with the studio.
Okay, we can sum up then. These are very important things you've said already here, that the pitcher shouldn't flex too much, that they should know who are they talking to and why. They should know their game, but they also should know the market and the competition. And of course, they should also know that you, the publisher, can provide them with a wider research. So be open for dialogue, be open for feedback, and so on. It's all about communication. It's all about being open. And there was a really good here a comparison to the dating stuff, because it's all about gaining trust and gaining friendships for years to come in the work. Thank you guys for our little talk, and I'm sure it's going to be an introduction for something bigger in the years to come. And I hope the people who are listening to us and watching us will know how to set their games properly for you to give them wings in the future. Thank you again very much. Before we finish, I would love to invite you, our guests, and all the audience to the Digital Dragons 2021 conference. It's going to happen on September the 7th and the 8th. So mark it in your calendars. We're going to meet there. We're going to be there. We're going to exchange experience and celebrate the game dev B2B business. Thank you again for your time and for your stories. I hope to hear and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
you.